guys, it's your boy Wally J, and today I'm bringing you some Elestrals content. I've been wanting to get into some Elestrals content, I'll be honest, for a little bit now. But Moonrise is out, and I am here to have fun with this thing. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. I do plan to just kind of like review different things. I feel like I do take a different approach to Elestrals than, just following the meta. So obviously we may not be having the best decks up here. I know what some of those look like, but I like to get into some of the different variations that we can actually get into that maybe are just a little bit unexplored at the moment. So that being said, just like a little quick background on how much I've been kind of around Elestrals and how much I've been playing is number one, I've been playing ever since Kickstarter. I actually did grab the prototype, and I still have my prototype cards. I absolutely fell in love with the game at that point, and I've pretty much had a pre-order in for every single set. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my pre-order in for Moonrise. I just had some other things going on financially, but I do plan to get that in here soon. I will say, I have never had to spend more than about $300 to get an entire playset of any set. And usually I get a lot more than that. Typically what I'll do is I'll grab, 3 starter decks, 3 of each starter deck, 3 of each of the blisters if it's just a monster, 15 of the spirits for the blisters, and then ultimately 2 to 3 boxes depending on how I'm feeling, or if I need some more cards out of that set. Typically what I've seen is you only really need 1 of those boxes to get damn near everything. I feel like that second box just kind of puts you over the edge for some of those harder to search slash find cards, but Moonrise may lead to be a little bit more challenging from what I've heard. It's a little bit hard to find that all of the lunar phases. So that being said, I wanted to talk to you guys today about a card that I think that is really going to spice up the meta. So let's get in there. Moonrise. Sorry, I don't have Moonrise cards right now, so we're just on the site looking through some things. But I wanted to talk about this card right here, Aardvarum. Aardvarum, I think he's been talked about a little bit. I think this line in general with the Aardbud and Aardvarum are going to be really, really strong. I can't say I think people, because I haven't fully really been in the space too much recently in these past couple of weeks to know kind of what everybody's thoughts are. But I think right now, especially looking at these, what are they? They subtypes. I can't remember exactly, but these species, right? So effectively everything that's an insect. I wanted to say, hey, like, what does this actually look like? What are we looking for? The first kind of people that come to mind with Aardbud are things like Toxoswarm, really that whole line, all of them, Toxiri, and what's the original Toxion out of Thunder. You can find all of those if you wanted to. I think the 2 big ones that people are going to be looking for, particularly with Aardbud, are Viserys, especially since he's now down at 2, and Spectres. Spectres obviously being one that Aardvarum will share a spirit with. So it just kind of fits. Why not throw both the these super strong 5s into this deck? And now guess what? They're easily searchable, which is nuts. But that led me to start thinking about what else is actually an insect. And the big thing about this, is Aardbud is going to let you find any 1 spirit. If you do find a way to disenchant from an Insectoid, you immediately go into Aardvarum. And I feel like Aardvarum is the guy who's really going to enable some crazy plays that we haven't been able to see here recently. And I'm gonna talk about 2 in particular, 2 decks that I wanted to make work, but I don't think that they could have worked. So the first one that I'll actually get into is in Frostfall. And I think some of you may know who I am thinking of, but we're gonna talk about Flammoth. I still do not, if I'm just honest, believe that Flammoth will be a really, really good card. He's just super expensive, but the fact that he is and can play as a Chains of Prometheus for free, you kind of can play into that, right? Like, runes are still pretty strong. These aren't just counter runes either. It could be an Earthquake that's trying to get rid of this Flammoth. I think the issue with Flammoth was, like, he could be strong, but by the time you find him, you're in a spot where maybe you get 1 or 2 of this effect off, at tops maybe, but now that you can actually go find Flammomoth, being able to get to Aardvarum, it helps out a lot. And Tower of Winds, I think, is another card that is a little underexplored for the big reasons of there aren't a lot of 3-cost wind monsters that you can go find that make this super easy. So I think he'll actually find some level of play. I think another big thing too is if you did just want to look for the Nimbug now, you do have that opportunity. And the next one I wanted to talk about is actually in Daybreak. And this one is actually one that holds a little bit dear to my heart. For those of you who maybe have seen me play a little bit in tournaments, I haven't posted anything so you guys wouldn't know, but I've played a Wind Burn deck in one of the main events, and I've played a couple of other stuff. Like I think I played Windburn twice. I know I've played Phosphocell twice, and Phosphocell actually fizzled out. I was one match away from going to top 8 with one of my Phosphocell decks, and I think now he just got so much better. So a big thing with Phosphocell is I feel like you should only put 5 to 6 of this card in your deck. I don't think that he's a play that you heavily play around, right? I think the idea with Phosphocell is he's a great way to finish games. He's a great way to turbo himself out, have to deal with this enormous beater, and not just a beater, right? He can ultimately scale himself. He can destroy cards on the field. He can recover cards from your graveyard. He's actually a really, really powerful card if you're able to get him and stick him. The issue is getting him and sticking him. But now you can run. So one thing I mentioned with sticking him is I felt it was very easy for me to get the first Phosphocell. And after multiple times of playing, I recognized, like, holy cow, there are multiple situations where I can get out 2 Phosphocell, but he does not fit in the deck. Why? Because I'm sitting here looking for this Larva Cell, I'm sitting here looking for this Anacell to hopefully turbocharge out to him. Now that I have Aardbud, I effectively can have 6 Larvacell in the game. Along with having those 6 Larvacell, you know, I could obviously play Aardvarum as well, and you know, just straight up look for the Phosphocell or look for the Anacell. And if you know, in some situations it may be just a situation where, hey, I go find the Phosphocell, I can now send over like an Arcalyph or send 2 monsters into this Phosphocell and be able to run that way. But now I'm able to play 3 Aardvarm, 1 of each of the line, so I can effectively have 2 Phosphocell at only 6 cards. I effectively should have it up at all times because I should have 5 Larvacell. With there's also some other ways to like search out Larvacell now that I was looking at too, with like Electronite, which I think could actually have some really, really good play within a deck like this as well. And here I'll kind of go to him next. But yes, so effectively, like, you'll just be able to hyper search, you know, Larvacell, hyper turbo into a Phosphocell now. Like literally second turn, third turn, you should always be seeing it. And the way I was kind of playing Phosphocell was, like I said, you're able to play the game using a little bit of 5s, you know, play the back and forth, you know, you get rid of some of their back row when you feel comfortable. It's like, holy cow, I can play into this. A lot of times I was not actually using the Nexus effect of Larvacell. I would just ascend over something that was either lunar or not lunar, thunder or solar enchanted, and that effectively just immediately brings out Anacell every single time, which makes this pretty like a pretty free combo. I would say the only issue that I see with, you know, Aardbud is I don't have a way to get that thunder or that solar on the field immediately, right? I have to start off with earth. So that may slow it down. That may be a little bit clunky at times, but I do think there is a place for that. But another card, and these are some of the ones I haven't really played them too much, but like I said, Toxic Swarm's here, Cyclovenom's here, which could actually be pretty cool if you can get them out, because you can get some hyper burn going with, you know, a crash with Cyclovenom that actually works into a Toxic Swarm, into, you know, some more Nexus plays to get that, you know, get that junk rolling, and you just burn them for, you know, 2-3 in that one turn. If you play like Tower of Winds, In a deck like this that was running Toxoswarm, you could obviously get multiple, turbo out the Cyclovenom. You burn them twice, get a Cyclovenom out, attack, maybe do 1 point of damage because you attacked over a 1 cost, bring out another Toxoswarm, burn for 1, and then say they don't have anything to defend now. You just hit them for 4 in a turn. You have you have a 2 wide board, a 6/2 and a 4/1 decently buffed beater. If you had like Island of Aeolia, you can go that way. But I don't think this line is super strong, especially the Cyclovenom, just because he has to crash over something. But potentially, right? Like that's a 4 cost play. That's what is that? 40% of somebody's health. 20%. Yeah, 20% of somebody's health. Like that's a big turn in one turn. Obviously I played 4 or 5 cards as well, so we kind of did both, but I probably have a relatively better board state there. I think another big one is Rhinosect. Rhinosect is gonna I think have a lot more play with the Aardbud and the Aardvarum now, because guess what? I can search out Rhinosect, I can search out Rhinymph, I can also search out Spynymph, which is also in the Earth realm of spirits, which Spynymph may not be the best card, but if I can find a Spynymph and Rhinymph and get out my Rhinosect, guess what? I'm big balling. So another quick combo I was thinking about as I was kind of editing this video I wanted to add in here is just Rhinymph and Spynymph are both cards that can become artifacts in your rune row, which effectively means you do not need to have the Insectoid. I think this is the only line that does this too. You do not need to have, the Insectoid in an Elestral row to effectively activate Aardbud's effect. You could play Rhinymph, somebody attack over it, you make their attack 0, it's now in your rune row. Let's say you do the Rhinymph, and you expend and obviously put them back in your rune row. You special out the the Rhinosect if that's what that looks like. Whatever it is, right? Point is, you can now summon your Aardbud, get rid of that rune row. Obviously this may feel a little bit bad because you want the Rhinosect out, but if you don't have Rhinosect, guess what? This is your way to now go find the Rhinosect. Let's say you have another Spynymph or Rhinymph or whatever, but now you have this 6/3 beater out there in Aardvarum who you can actually kind of do some things. You now find the Rhinosect that now people are going to be scared of coming out, and then effectively next turn, if you found your Rhinymph off of the summon of Aardbud last turn, you should be able to Rhinymph, use Rhinymph's effect, special summon Rhinosect, pop whatever you need to, and I think that'd be actually an insane freaking combo. That not only is it's one that you kind of expect, but it's one that you can't stop in a way. Like regardless, you either play into that, you either play into the Rhinymph, the Spynymph, you use something that you may not have wanted to before on like the Spynymph, because Spynymph is obviously a battle effect, where if now they're using an earthquake to get rid of it, or alter whatever that card is, right? They're effectively using way too much resources to get rid of this 5 cost that doesn't really do too much, for something that could have stopped Rhinosect or even Aardvarum in the near future. So that's the whole point. So I think that's really like, I think this card might be absolutely freaking insane in an Aardbud / Aardvarum deck. Especially the fact that you can actually search out Rhinosect using Aardvarum. I think that's it in Frostfall. Daybreak. So yeah, there's a lot I think that Aardbud and Aardvarum are going to be able to do in the meta right now. Like even if you don't go into Titan and go that way, just the fact that you can search out some of these really strong cards that are insects, I think is going to come into play a lot. So I did want to talk about like Electrify, Electronite. Like I said, kind of going back to this, if I was, which would it make sense, right? I'm kind of going, how would I put this? I'm kind of going too deep into trying to set this up, right? Because like you could effectively play like Aardbud, hell, you could probably actually find a way to get out Electronite, special summon an Electrify next to an Aardbud, get the Aardbud out, special summon into Aardvarum, be able to find what you need. I'd have to just kind of get into those plays a little bit more, but effectively you play Aardbud, you probably could go out here, find the Electrify. The Electrify lets you find a 1-cost Thunder, any 1-cost Thunder. Obviously, we're looking for Larva Cell, so you don't really need to make that play, but the fact that you can makes a kind of a different play, and the fact that these are insects that can effectively just be added into this package. They may have a little bit of a place here. They do generate a pretty big card advantage. I'm thinking in a deck where you don't need. So what I'm thinking of is you don't need a Divine Rune in this deck. You don't need a real way to Nexus in a Fossil Cell deck. This is the deck I'm thinking of that we were just talking about. You don't really need that, right? What you need is a way to have a card stay on board and let it sit out there. So effectively, you could play like Aardbud, Aardvarum. Maybe like, what is this at 3? Maybe you play this one at 1 or 2. Especially since you can be special ascended from your deck, which is pretty cool. You probably only need one in regard anyway, because you're only gonna ever look for a Elestral, one insect Elestral that's over 1 anyway, right? So you effectively can find 4 cards. You come into the Electrifly and the Electronite. Electrify can let you find things like your Ash Rabbit. Let you find things like the Toxion if you really wanted it. It can let you find. Trying to think of what else. Like, I mean, who is it? Elechik is at 1, but we don't necessarily need to play him in this deck. But point is, like, you play the Electrify. He also is going to let you immediately find Larvacell. So Larvacell, think of it like this: we could have Electrify. We could have Aardbud. We effectively now have 8. But I need to say that again. We effectively have 8. That's so crazy to say. We have 8 Larvacell in the deck, which is really, really strong because the only thing you need to get out Fossil Cell is a Larvacell. So if I'm thinking about it now, you have those 8. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7. You maybe play 2 of these just because he's a little bit stronger. What is that? That puts us at 13. We need about 5 more Elestrals. I would probably play the 2 Spectrus, not 2 Spectrus, 3 Spectrus, 3. What the fuck is that card? 2 Viscerus, at least 2 Spectrus. Maybe you only played 3, and then the other card. I wasn't gonna mention this in this deck. This is very one-off that I was thinking of. But I'll add it in here at the end of this. Is where did it go? Hypnosum. Hypnosum, I think, is about to be the most OP card in the series. And the reason why is because Hypnosum is probably the best. Second to Foamy, I would say. Second to Foamy, but probably the best defense card in the game. And the reason he's the best defense card in the game is because he does not cost anything extra outside of the cost to summon him, right? He's effectively a 2 cost, which I think is insane. And the reason I say 2 costs is because you can play him. He's effectively going to be a card that if you play him first turn, 9 times out of 10, I mean, there's some ways to get rid of him, right? Like, somebody may cryoblast, somebody do this, but if you're spending all of that for this Hypnosum, you're in a spot where you're already winning. Hypnosum, I feel like the reason I'm bringing this up in general is because Hypnosum is a card that I'm thinking about putting into the Fossil Cell deck along with this Electronite, right? These Spectrus, right? We kind of now have a reason to have a lunar and solar engine along with this Thunder package going on. Hypnosum can effectively go out there, sit there for a turn. 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, he's gonna make it through turn 1. And if he doesn't make it through turn 1, he did his job. You used enough resources for that opponent where he could have used this on, your Fossil Cell or whatever, right? But the point is, Hypnosum goes out. He comes back and dies. You resummon him with a Thunder or a Solar. And guess what? As long as you have Larvacell in your hand, you can summon him and go that way. The one thing I do want to look at and get into is a way that, Hypnosum, like in a way where Hypnosum is able to kind of, in the same way Hypnosum kind of plays, have a Insectoid that is able to stay on the field for a turn to allow for that boost up into Aardvarum. There is actually a really good way to do it with like Viscerus, because Viscerus, what I was doing before with him anyway was playing the Viscerus, looking to attack over, misenchanting the Viscerus, which a lot of people were doing anyway, because it's kind of like I can't do more with him. It doesn't really matter if he has his effect. I mean, effectively he does stay at 4, but my big thing was if he stayed through another turn, if one of them stays through a turn, guess what? They can be special, send it over. If it is the solar, boom, he's essentially fast tracked Fossil. If it's Aardbud here, he now has 2 different reasons to be alive. Where I can now special summon the Aardbud, go find another, whether that be the Viscerous. I mean, this wouldn't be a situation where we find Viscerous. Say we go find the larva cell, or say we go find a Spectrus, because maybe that's what we need. We're now able to disenchant from the what is it, the Viscerous that's on the field, go into our Aardvarm, and now I can go find whatever 2 cost or 3 cost Elestral that I was looking for. So I think it's going to be really, really strong. I think a big issue that I was running into with the Fossil Cell deck is just card advantage. And the way I'm seeing it is Electronite with Electrifly and Aardvarm and Aardbud and Aardvarum are just so much card advantage that you will always get to your Fossil Cell. And then it's just figuring out a way to play around him and effectively keep him out there on the field, which honestly is not too bad. Things like, things like the counter rune to obviously negate some runes and different stuff. Like, oh, what is it? What is the card I'm thinking of right now that I know I have so many of that I just can't remember what the name is. Let's go look just to be sure. It came in Frostfall, right? Divine Blessing. That's okay. I don't know why I was thinking of something else, but yeah, now you can play Divine Blessing very easily. I actually remember in one of my tournaments, I was playing one, I think, of each, or I had this in the side deck, and pretty much every time I went to the second round, I would effectively put in Divine Blessing, and just be kind of good to go from there. We just needed the defense. I was having a really easy time getting out the Fossil Cell. I just needed a way, or a better way, I should say, to keep him and stick him on the field. And the fact that Fossil Cell in general has so many extra spirits on him, Divine Blessing pairs very, very nicely. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to share. I think that Aardbud, Aardvarm are gonna have some crazy implications. I mean, even just in a deck that solely focuses on getting to Ant Titan and using Ant Titan's effect is insane. I think that's maybe where a lot of people had been thinking as well. But I'm really loving the idea of an Aardbud, Aardvarm Fossil Cell deck. Hell, even looking into like Fulgorix, and kind of what you'd be able to do there would be pretty cool too. Obviously, he kind of has a different effect that may hinder the Aardbud just a little bit, but Aardbud versus like Aardvarm and Titan, if you were to decide to play it, would not be affected by Fulgorix. Alongside, you still have the Viscerous that you can play and the Spectrus that you can play. I think those two, just the fact that you can play those 2 cards and search those 2 cards out, makes this card insanely good. Insanely good. Aardvarm, I think everybody kind of knew that about Aardbud, but Aardvarm, I feel like in the decks where it makes sense to, right? The big thing is, hey, do I have multiple searches? Do I have multiple people that I feel good about finding? And for me, I feel like being able to find, I could still go find another larva cell if I wanted to. I could go find the Fossil Cell if I, feel like I could just ascend over. But I also think a big thing that I could find with the Aardvarm is the Electronite, right? And he might even be able to be a better defensive Mon that continues, I shouldn't say Mon, a defensive Elestral that now is, continually giving me card advantage with the Electrify and things like that. So there are some other decks I do want to talk about and I'll get into. I do think Wind is going to have a really, really strong package coming here forward. So, and I would even say, even with that, right, Carry On and Carry Off are both insects as well. The fact that you can now search Carry On, you could obviously search them before, but being able to use that Aardbud in multiple different ways, I think is going to be really crazy. And then same thing, you don't really need to search the Carry Off, but if you can always get to that Carry On, like you just play this extremely defensive strategy that people cannot. You have to play into it. And when you play into it, you effectively get what people need, right? Like there's no reason that I couldn't play carry on, get to the carry off in this deck, and start stealing stuff as well. Because the wind and um, I mean, playing a little bit of wind is not too crazy. I wouldn't necessarily play this. I do think I would play if I do think if I played it, I would play a lot more wind, so it wouldn't look the same. Like I probably wouldn't play the fossil, so I probably wouldn't play the thunder engine too much. I might play the electronite, but really probably not. I probably would just play like the earth, wind, and lunar and go that way. But that's all like me. Like my brain is racing right now about thinking some stuff. I'm really excited to get in the cards here soon. But I just wanted to share this up with you guys. I think that this line in general is going to become insane. I think the more lines that we have come out that allow you to search these archetypes are going to be insane for this playability into the different element types. Same thing with like Comalis, right? Like the fact that he's searching out a ghost. We saw this in Exaltus. He was searching out ethereals. Like Comalis is OP in my opinion. I think Comalis is absolutely OP. You effectively could always have Pharaohgeist in your hand if, as long as you can find a new moon or whatever, right? Or hell, just have two creatures out there, which he's a 4/2. He's not an easy body to get over, especially with like dense fog and different stuff going on, right? Like you have this Comalis, you can literally effectively always find your Pharaohgeist and go that way. And there's some other good ghosts in the game, so I think in general, looking at that, I wasn't really sure about all of the elect or insects that you could possibly find. Hopefully this goes over a couple of really good ones, especially the ones in the past that may have been that we may not have been thinking of going into this set, that can now have some play, especially things like Flame 'em Off. So I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys on the next one. And I do plan to be playing in some of the Elestrals tournaments here in the future. I've always been able to come to a couple of locals and play in some of the ones before. But yeah, I do plan to keep bringing you guys some Elestrals content. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Like, comment, and subscribe. What's your favorite card coming into Moonrise? What deck are you planning to play? I do have a couple I am thinking of. I really think now, looking at this, Fossil Cell is going to be insane. I might actually try to make a Flame 'em Off deck work. But more importantly, I'm really looking into a suppression deck. A suppression deck using Dracodoodle, and possibly even like Windjin to help find and search out those people. And I'll get into it at a different date. I have to actually get into those that deck list and those deck numbers. But yeah, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.